was part one of the family interview. At this time, we would like to thank our guests and our past guests for their time and their candor. Stay tuned for part two.
What was your best subject?
I don't know. I don't know if I had a best subject. I know
Did you have a
probably
worst?
spelling was my worst subject. And English, probably writing stuff, you know, because I didn't pay attention to it.
Right.
I know math and stuff like that. I was really always good in that. I was always a top student in math. And but there were so many rules in English that I just said forget it. I forget the rules, you know. And so spelling has always been my worst subject because you know, because the words, if the words are not written as they sound, or if I'm speaking in a way that's not the correct vernacular, then that's the problem. But
Right.
I didn't really have a worse subject. I always had good grades and everything.
Did you okay, so you said you went to Sheraton
Yeah.
And
then
what-
we transferred to San Miguel in the third grade.
because of the boundary. They do the boundary
They
at
redrew
Plymouth.
the
At
lines.
Plymouth.
Yeah, they redrew the lines when I was in the second grade, and then we had to go to San Miguel. So we walked
So
around.
you went to both schools.
Yeah, I went to Sheridan first from grades kindergarten through the second, and then I went to San Miguel from the third on up to the sixth, and then the seventh through the ninth. I went to James Dimon
Okay.
Junior High, and then I went to high school. And I just in 2006 in November, I went to my 40th high school reunion.
Wow.
And my kids that I went to school from the third grade on, and I have to send you some of those pictures.
Wow.
We all, you know, we've been together since then. It's amazing.
Wow. Wow. And so you went to Balboa,
Yeah, I went to Balboa High, graduated in 1966.
Bucks.
Yeah.
Got any good memories about Bal?
All of them were good. All of them, well, there was a couple bad ones. One of my friends, Rodney Garcia, got shot by the Pig brothers. That's what we call them. I can't remember their name. We call them because they look like pigs.
Pig, yeah.
So we call them the Pig brothers. And but yeah, no, I was like always on the teams. And I played basketball, and I ran track, and I was a champion hurdler in my senior year. I took all city in the high hurdles and second in the lows. Went to state meet.
Wow.
I got an award for a scholar athlete, the California Interscholastic Federation. You know, they gave me a certificate for being a scholar and athlete.
Right.
And you know, I was a Yale leader. I was in the band. You know, I mean, there was a whole slew of activities that I was involved in. So. Yeah, I enjoyed high school, and I really back then I didn't understand why people didn't like to go to school.
Right.
Because I loved to go to school.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
You know, and I was like, going out with girls from different cultures and stuff. I was learning a lot, you know, and I was going out. I had black friends and white friends, and you know, I would go out with them, and I learned a lot from that. And then I met my first wife at Balboa High.
Well, okay, okay. And then what college did you attend?
I went from Balboa to City College, and the reason I went to City is because I had applied to Berkeley. But back then, you had to put your picture on the application.
Oh.
And even though I had the grades,
Yeah.
they wouldn't let me in that school. And that's the only school I applied to, plus City. And so I went to City. So I went to City, and then after City, I got my associates from City, and then I went to San Francisco State, and I majored in marine biology, and I, you know, dove all the Northern California, and there was a lot of people who were like, you know, skeptical of a black guy who wanted to go under the water.
Right.
But that was my passion back there. I really enjoyed it. I really learned a lot. So I got my degree in marine biology in 1971. And then I applied to UCLA for a doctoral program. And I got accepted in neurobiology. No, actually I got accepted in marine biology. But after my first year, I dove the whole Southern California coast and northern Mexico.
Wow.
And after my first year, I was more into physiology than I was into oceanography and marine biology. So I went and I finished my degree in neurobiology.
Okay.
But I did do my thesis on a marine mollusk called a plesia, and I collected all the animals that I used in my dissertation. I collected them from Lunada Bay. I dove to get those animals.
Wow. Wow. So when did you first realize that you wanted to be a doctor? Was it early on, or was it later on, or when did you get that inkling?
Well, I guess it was early on, but it's just in the back of your mind sort of thing,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not really focused, and so I was always going in the general direction where I wanted to go.
Mm-hmm.
And see, when I graduated from high school in 1966, they had escalated the war in Vietnam in 1965. There was a big buildup,
Right.
500,000 troops.
Right.
So a lot of my buddies left out of high school and went to the military. So I had done a stupid thing in '65. I went down to Camp Pendleton for a training thing because I thought I wanted to do that too.
Yeah, yeah.
Until I got down there.
Right.
Then I realized, this might not be such a good idea. And so when I got back, I had taken a trip back to St. Louis with my parents. And while I was there, Brown Smith's mother had died. So he flew out and rode back with us. And he told me all about what happened to him in Korea.
Mm.
And that solidified it for me.
Right,
I'm not
yeah,
going because
yeah,
when I got down there, they showed me that you would get killed over there.
Right.
And I wasn't thinking about getting killed. I was
Yeah.
thinking about killing other people.
Right, yeah,
Which was a
yeah.
bad thing.
Yeah.
But that's youthful
Right,
exuberance and stuff
right,
like that.
right.
So I was very motivated to stay in school. And so I did. I stayed in school, I kept my grades up, and I worked as a recreation director.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a wonderful experience. But I was working full time and going to school, and I got my degree in 5 years, despite the fact that we had a strike at San Francisco State. They struck to have a African American Studies program and open admissions.
Wow.
And I fully support the strike.
Right.
So, we walked the picket lines, did all
Yeah.
things that we were going to do and all like that.
It's a new day, huh?
It was and the legacy of that still goes on. So it was very good. Although when I drove by San Francisco State the other day, it didn't look like any. It looked like it was all Orientals over there. It wasn't look like any.
City College too. I work at City College. It's 30,000 students and 27,000 Orientals.
Yeah. Well.
Okay. Do you remember any fads in your youth? Hairstyles and clothes, anything like that? What type of?
Oh yeah. I mean, especially when we got to be seniors, there was you could be. The white kids had the Barts and the Leaguers.
Mm-hmm.
The Leaguers were Ivy League,
Right.
and the Barts were all the dark, Big Ben pants and stuff like that.
Right.
For the blacks, there was the collegiates,
Mm-hmm.
and I forget what we call the other ones, but we were the collegiates.
Yeah,
We
Like
were,
preppies, like.
Yeah, we kind of wore preppies. Like
Mhm.
I remember I had three or four different saddle shoes. One particular pair was suede, light suede, and the saddle was a dark suede.
Yeah.
And but I was never into clothes that much. I have all that stuff for when I wanted to go to a party or something like that. But when I
Right.
went to school,
Yeah.
I just wore jeans and tennis
T-shirt.
shoes.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Who were your childhood heroes?
I don't know if I really had any heroes. I think my parents were my heroes.
That's good. That works. That works.
Because you have to understand is there was 8 kids,
Right.
and they always had everything for us.
Right.
So, and then, the stories that my parents told me, my mother told me mostly stories about her family and stuff like that. And the idea, and I knew what racism was about, and I knew how hard it was for black people in our society. And so for them to be able to do what they did,
It was monumental.
I think,
Yeah. Okay. What were your favorite songs and music growing up?
Ooh, well, my favorite song in high school was A Whiter Shade of Pale by Procol Harum. And I actually, in college, wrote a paper about this,
Oh yeah.
which the professor just rejected out of hand. Your interpretation is not correct. And, she might have been right, but I love that song. And one time, me and Arnold got into a huge fight because we had this stereo, and the rule was whoever's on it first, they get to stay on it until they're off.
Right.
And I must have played that song about 100 times that day. And he got tired of that. And I had to be self-critical. I mean, I was a little over the top, but I was just kept listening to it over and over again. And he came in and changed it, and we got into a fight. I said, "No, man, I got this." You know, Arnold. You know, I had to see what happened was Arnold. I was always bigger than Arnold until Arnold got to be 12 years old. Then he got his growth spurt, and he went to man size.
Right.
And I was still kid size, so he liked to try to bully her. But I would never let him bully
Right,
me.
right.
And he knew that if he started something,
It's gonna be on.
well, we was gonna fight until I won. Or until somebody else intervened. It wasn't gonna be like that. So we tore up the kitchen, the dining room table. I don't know how my father put up with that, because we would tear down the doors and everything.
That sounds like John Banks playing that. What was that song that John used to play all the time? That over and over, down in the room too. Miss LA.
Miss LA.
Oh my God, just over and over.
How does a whiter shaded pearl go?
It goes like this. We skip the lights and dangle. We turn cartwheels across the floor. I was feeling kind of seasick, and the crowd called out for more. You know, do you get the melody?
Yeah,
I can get it. I'm about to MP3 it.
It's a great song.
Yeah. Did you have any pets?
Oh yeah, we had, when we were like, I think we were like 8 years old, Norman brought home a box. He says, "I got a surprise for you guys." And we said, "What was this?" He said, and we started guessing. He said it was a spider. And he opened the box, and it was his child dog.
Right.
Now, I love that dog.
Yeah.
You know? That was a great dog. When we rode our bikes all over the city, he was running
with
right
you.
next to us.
Right.
And when we had to go, we would deliver papers, and we'd get up in the morning and deliver papers. And one funny thing, and the dog was a great dog. This big German Shepherd ran out on us one day, so we ran and jumped on the car. And I don't know what the spider was thinking, but he was jumping up on the car with us. And then the dog came and attacked, and Spider turned around and wore that dog out.
Yeah.
But I think he was just following us.
Yeah, because you guys jumped up and he jumped up there.
Yeah, I was, that dog.
Spider, huh?
Yeah, he lasted. I was in college when he died,
Mm.
and that really hurt me when that dog died.
Yeah, I remember Spider. I remember Spider.
And then after that, my mother had another dog called Dora, but she had that after I had moved out.
That's the
But
black dog?
It was a Belgian Shepherd.
Yeah.
And I was living over on Guerrero, 14th and Guerrero. Well, first I was living on down by Seneca. I was living on Seneca. And I would come by and get that dog, and we would take that dog to the beach. And that dog was very good at Frisbee. We'd take her out to Golden Gate Park and everything. Yeah.
Wow.
That was a great dog. We had pets when we were young.
Okay, what world events had the most impact on you while you were growing up? Did any of them personally affect your family?
Well, I think the biggest thing for me was the Vietnam War, because that one was, where I became politicized, and I started to understand the politics of imperialism and, the class nature of our society. Yeah, it had a profound effect on me, because that made me develop a Marxist philosophy and guided my actions for the last 40 years.
Right.
So yeah, I think the Vietnam War was the major thing. And I mean, then there was, while that was going on, there was things like the assassination of the Kennedys, the assassination of Martin Luther King. All these things had profound effects, because it make you more aware of how the system works.
Right.
How these, and that the people who are in control are in firm control, and they do whatever they want to do.
Yeah, by any means.
And they use all these demagogues to keep us divided.
Right.
And so, yeah, I think that was the biggest thing for me, because, that was the biggest thing. I had too many friends go to Vietnam and then come back. And some came back, they were all screwed up.
Right.
And I had one of my buddies who just died a couple years ago, Gus Ivory. He was one of the smartest black kids I knew, but he got his mind messed up in the military, and he was on disability. And so I actually wrote a song about that.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, it's called "Finding My Way Home."
Okay, do you remember where you were when Martin Luther King was assassinated?
Absolutely. Well, let me first go back.
Okay.
I know exactly where I was when Kennedy was in. I was in third period gym.
Wow.
And I was coming out, and there was this guy, this black guy. He was a tall, but he was he's kind of a jerk. I really never liked this guy.
Right.
And I hadn't formulated any real opinions about the Kennedys because I was too young to really know. And I was 15 years old. I was in gym, and I was coming out, and this guy runs in, this black guy, and you know it was white and blacks all together, you know, in this class. And he hollers, "They killed that motherfucker, and I'm glad." And I said, "Who? Who did they kill?" And he said, "Kennedy." And then, you know, it was such a horrible thing to say amongst kids and amongst all these different
races.
Because I had there was Chinese, Filipino, whites, you know, there were Italians, Mexicans, everything. We're all friends.
Right.
And then here, you know, this first Irish president gets killed, and this guy runs in. The rancor was just a little bit too much, and I was you know, set back by that.
That's deep.
And then when King got killed, I was at San Francisco State. I was at, when I heard the news, I think I was actually working at Alice Chalmers Playground when that happened. I don't remember it exactly, but I know it was a lot of stuff, because there was a lot of stuff going on at that time.
Right.
We heard that, and when we first heard the news, we didn't believe it.
Right.
And then it took a while, and I was working at Alice Chalmers Playground when that happened.
Yeah, I can remember when I was a kid expecting that to happen, you know. I was expecting him to Martin Luther King.
I was taken totally off guard.
I was scared for him all the way until it happened. I can remember as a child, that's one of my earliest memories, was being scared for Martin Luther King almost every day.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I guess, I don't know, I wasn't thinking that.
Yeah, I was scared to death, you know. Okay, describe a typical family dinner.
Well, like I said, during the week we just ate subsistence meals, because I cooked them, and then I would just, well, if I had the hamburger, I'd make the hamburger, and then I'd make some, you know, probably rice or you know, mashed potatoes or something like that, and some vegetables. And that was it. You know, it'd be like a 3-course meal. That would be it. Right. We liked to fry a lot back then, so we would fry up some French fries. and you see, my mother would keep a pot of grease on the stove. So oftentimes what we do is use the potatoes to purify the grease.
Right,
So we would put that in. That made the potatoes really good. And I didn't realize that until I was teaching at Texas Southern, and the students would come over to my house to eat, and I would fry them French fries, because I did the same thing. I had a pot of grease, you know, the bacon grease and stuff. So they would say, "Dr. Banks, these fries are so good. What are you doing, baby?" And I'm looking at them like, you know, I didn't understand. You know what I'm saying? But then I realized that all that stuff that was in there got on those fries and made those fries wonderful. And their parents didn't do that. I didn't realize that. You know, so we do that. You know, on Sundays my mother would cook some of the most wonderful meals. You know, just whatever it was. If it was ham, or if it was baked chicken, and it would be macaroni and cheese, and rolls. You know, my grandmother lived with us. She made those Parker House rolls. Them things, those were heaven. Woo. You can't get better than that. You know, those things, I'm telling you. And what we used to do is we used to go down on not Sedona, but Minerva Street. Those houses weren't tied into the sewer. They had septic tanks. And over the septic tank there was blackberries growing. So we'd go there and we'd pick all these blackberries, and when my grandmother came out, my father's mother came out in the summer, Mama Martha, we would go and get those blackberries, and this was going on for years. And finally she said, "Well, where do you guys get those blackberries?" Because we didn't know what a septic tank was. She said, "Yeah, we just picked them over the septic tank." She said, "Septic tank? It was the best berries, I tell you. Those berries was plump and big and juicy.
Arnold tells the same story.
And we would go and then my mother's mother would cook some of the best peach cobbler. It was off. It was really. It was. We had some really good memories of food. Although I never was, like enamored with food.
Right.
I always enjoyed those meals.
Right.
My mother would make those pound cakes.
Mm-hmm.
Them pound cakes were great. And my mother would make my lunch every day. My mother would make me a huge lunch every day, and she would make hot chocolate. And I kept telling her, don't make it so hot, because my mother would make some wonderful meals for us every Sunday. We had wonderful meals, and it was something to look forward to. And she'd be in there all day cooking and everything. Yeah, very good meals.
Okay, how is the world today different today than it was when you were a child?
I think we live in a more fascistic society back then, because, now than back then.
Okay.
Well, we live in a very fascistic society right now. We had rights back then, even though they would squash the rights of black people a lot, but you still had them. They were still on the books.
Right.
Now they're not even on the books.
Right.
They do whatever the hell they want to do. You can't, like in Chicago, you can't drive 15 minutes on the south side of Chicago without seeing a black man on the back of a, and doing an illegal search and all kind of stuff. You got 2 million people in jail and 6 million under the auspices of the penal system. We live in a very fascist society. It's so less friendlier. And the distance between the rich and the poor is so great that it's created a lot of desperate people. It's a very dangerous society for people, especially black people. It's not as fun as it was back then. Because when I went to my 20th year high school reunion, when I was, was in the men's room, one of my buddies who I went to high school with, he came up to me and he says, Floyd, things are so different now. I wasn't tuning into that, because I was tuning into everybody being there. He said, we used to hang out and stuff together. Now that's almost not possible. And I said I had to agree with him. It's a different world.
It's unfortunate.